Hello, my name is Kian Mansouri Jamshidi, and today is 25 September 2024. My edX username is sirkianmj and my github username is sirkianmj. The topic I chose for this project is the 2024 Spoutible API data breach. I selected this incident because it provides a clear example of how poor API security can lead to a significant data breach. It is closely related to topics covered in CS50 Cybersecurity course, including API vulnerabilities, encryption, and incident response. In January 2024, Spoutible, a new social media platform, suffered a data breach that exposed sensitive user information. Spoutible was designed to be an alternative to Twitter or X. But this breach exposed thousands of users' email addresses, profile details, and hashed passwords. The breach occurred due to an API vulnerability allowing unauthorized access to users' data. API, or application programming interfaces, allow different software systems to communicate, but they can also be entry points for attackers if not secured properly. This breach was significant not only because of the volume of data exposed, but also because it targeted a platform specifically designed to be a safer alternative for users frustrated with other social media platforms. The Spoutible breach stemmed from an API vulnerability. APIs allow external applications or users to request data or services from a system, and in this case, Spoutable's API had a weak authentication mechanism. Attackers were able to exploit the API by sending unauthorized requests to access user data. This type of attack is often referred as an API scarping attack, where a large amount of data are extracted from the system by bypassing authentication controls. In this case, the API was improperly configured and didn't have enough rate limiting or strong users authentication, allowing attackers to continuously send requests to gather sensitive data without being blocked or throttled. APIs are a common target for attackers because, if not secured, they can offer a direct line to sensitive information stored within a system. The consequences of this breach were serious for both Spoutible and its users. The exposed information included email addresses, profile details, and bcrypt hashed passwords. While bcrypt is a strong password hashing algorithm, the breach still put users at risk. Attackers could use exposed email for phishing attacks or to the link data to other breaches. The hashed passwords, although not directly accessible, could still be vulnerable to offline brute force attacks, especially if users reused weak passwords on other sites. This breach damaged Spoutable's reputation as a secure alternative to other social platforms. It also highlighted the growing threats to users' personal data, even on platforms that promote privacy and security as a core values. A key aspect of this breach was the exposure of bcrypt hashed passwords. Bcrypt is a hashing function that transforms passwords into fixed-length strings, making them unreadable to humans. What makes a bcrypt particularly secure is its use of a salt, a random value added to the password before hashing, and its ability to slow down brute force attacks through adjustable computational cost. However, even with bcrypt, users are not entirely safe if they use weak passwords across multiple platforms. In the case of a Spoutible breach, while bcrypt makes it much harder to crack passwords, attackers could still attempt to brute force the hashes, especially if some users had weak passwords. This is why password reuse across multiple platforms is a dangerous practice and why platforms need to enforce strong passwords policies. After discovering the breach, Spoutible took immediate action by informing users of incident. They collaborated with FBI and advised users to change their passwords as a precaution. While Spoutible acted relatively quickly to contain the breach and notify its users, there was some criticism about how much information they initially provided. Transparency is crucial in breaches response because users need to know what specific data was exposed, how they may be affected, and what steps they should take to protect themselves. Spoutable's decision to involve law enforcement was a good step in ensuring that the breach would be properly investigated. However, as with many incidents like this, the speed and clarity of their communication with users could have been improved. This breach could have been prevented with better security practices, especially when it comes to API security. First and foremost, Spoutable should have implemented a stronger authentication mechanism for their API, requiring API keys or tokens combined with auth for users' authentication could have ensured that only authorized users and application could access sensitive data. Additionally, rate limiting is an important defense mechanism that can prevent attackers from making repeated requests to an API. By limiting the number of requests from a single user or API address, Spoutable could have minimized the impact of the attack. Regular security audits and penetration tests would also have helped identify vulnerabilities in their API configuration before they were exploited. The Spoutable breach highlights a larger trend in cybersecurity, the vulnerability of social media platforms. As a social media grows in influence, so too does the amount of personal information stored in these platforms. Users are increasingly share sensitive data, which makes it social media a prime target for attackers. The incident underscores the importance of platforms investigating stronger security practices from the start. Social media users also need to be more cautious about the data they share and should follow best practices for their own security, like using strong unique passwords and enabling two-factor authentication whenever possible. In terms of recommendations for securing APIs and protecting user data, there are several key strategies. First, using strong authentication methods such as auth and API tokens that can prevent unauthorized access. Regularly rotating tokens and ensuring that they have an expiration date is also essential. Implementing proper rate limiting and monitoring API traffic for unusual activity is crucial for detecting and stopping attacks early. Encryption is another critical component. Encrypting sensitive data both at rest and in transit help to ensure that even if data is intercepted, it cannot be easily read or misused. Finally, platforms must regularly audit their systems and APIs, as well as perform penetration testing to identify and fix vulnerabilities before attackers can exploit them. In summary, the Spoutable data breach in 2024 was a reminder of how crucial it is to secure APIs. While the use of bcrypt protects users' passwords to some extent, the breach still put users' personal information at risk. By implementing stronger API authentication, enforcing better security practices, and being transparent in their response, Spoutable could have reduced the damage caused by this breach. For users, this breach is a reminder to practice good passwords hygiene, using unique, strong passwords for every site, and enabling two-factor authentication whenever it is possible. And here is my resources that I use to gather information about this breach. Thank you, CS50, and I hope that our future be more secure.